let's talk about the predictions for the upcoming Guard Codex. Now, if you're joining us for the first time or you're watching this post-live, then this is a very important thing to caveat here. These are predictions. They're not even rumors. They're not leaks or anything like that. Okay? What we are going to look at is the predictions, essentially, of what we think is going to be in the Guard Codex based on historical precedent and the supposed leaks that happened earlier in the year. But a lot of people dismissed those leaks at the time and basically were like, nah. So we'll go through the predictions, where we're getting these ideas from, what we think is going to happen, and then we'll refresh our memory with the leaks and see how valid they're looking now based on what we have seen in the past and based on what we have seen with recent releases from Games Workshop. Okay, so first things first, I want to try and predict what detachments we're going to have in the Guard Codex, because I personally believe that the data sheets aren't going to change all that much. I predict on the datasheet front that anything Forge World is goners, mate. It's absolutely goners. And I predict anything that doesn't have a model right now is goners, mate. Absolutely goners. Yes, I think that will include things like infantry squads. I think it's 50-50 whether they make it. Tank commanders I think will survive simply because there is an upgrade sprue in the Cadian upgrade sprue, and also that the models come with the Lemurus comes with the parts in it to make a tank commander. But I think everything else is goners. So I don't think datasheet abilities will change. I just think the number of datasheets Guard have access to will be like basically halved, which is sad as fuck. But yeah, it's basically halved. I do think that we will get a few new datasheets. My prediction is that at a bare minimum, we get a new type of Krieg infantry squad, and we get a new Krieg artillery piece, and probably a Krieg command squad of some kind, or Krieg character of some kind. I would love for there to be a new kind of Krieg tank as well, because Guard players love tanks. GW knows that we love tanks, so if they anytime they release a new tank, I think they know it's going to fly off the shelves. Like, a lot of people lambasted the Dawn for not having an ass, and then still everyone picked up like 3 of them, right? So that's my prediction on sort of the datasheet sort of model front. But the big thing, I think, for the Codex, the spicy meatball, is going to be the detachments, because the detachments are where the rules are these days. You know, you've got your army rule, which we know is going to be chain of command and orders. So really the only thing that is left, the mystery, as it were, is going to be in the detachments for the Codex. That's where it's going to be. So I think that we will have 6 detachments. Now, we know one of those detachments is going to be the Combined Arms Detachment, aka Hybrid Guard. I don't see any major changes for this detachment. You may see things like reinforcements go to like an infantry detachment, which we'll get to in a moment. But I think fundamentally that detachment rule is going to remain lethal hits. That has been very popular with the Guard community, and also kind of is in line with the fact that most factions have retained in one form or another their index detachment rule. So, you know, Chaos still have it with Pack-Bound Zealots. Orcs still got it with the war clan or whatever it is. You still got the Rad Zone with the Admech. You still got the Shield Host with the Custodes. Okay, right. So I think Combined Arms Detachment is absolutely still going to be in the Codex, and I think it's going to be by and large unchanged. So that leaves the remaining 5 detachments. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is say to you where is to show my sources. Okay, show my sources. Now I am going to be leaning heavily on these two books. Now, if you're a young blood, if you're a greenhorn who hasn't been in the game all that long, maybe you joined us in 9th or 10th edition, you may not even be aware of these books right here. All right, but these are very, very, very important, because one thing that GW has shown time and time again, edition in, edition out, is that when it comes to the Guard, they love, and I mean they love, to recycle ideas and recycle material. Okay, so this book right here is the Monka supplement from 7th edition. Now, it might look like a tile supplement, but ironically, it's actually chock full of Guard rules. In fact, it was basically the second Guard Codex of 7th edition. And this here is Vigilus Defiant, which was, again, a big update for the Guard and a few other factions in 8th edition. Okay, now in 9th edition, we had the Guards. Now you might think, what about 9th edition? Well, remember that Guard basically had to make do with 8th edition stuff all the way through until the last 3 months of the Guard, last 3 months of 9th edition. And that's when we got our Codex. And in this 9th edition Codex is where we actually, there's also a few, it's another thing I'm going to be leaning on a little bit. All right, so there we go. So we're going to be, those are the sort of sources. Now, the first thing to say about the detachment, I think this is very, very, very important. I do not believe that we are going to get regimental doctrines. I do not believe we are going to get detachments that are based on specific regiments. For example, we are not going to get the Mordian detachment. We are not going to get the Talan detachment. We are not going to get the Cadian or the Catan detachment. That is something that has been completely done away with by Games Workshop in 10th edition. Look at Space Marines, for example. Sure, you have some of their detachments which sort of are nod and a wink to certain chapters, like Iron Storm for Iron Hands and all that kind of stuff. But by and large, what they have acknowledged is that, you know, each chapter can fight in every single way. While some might prefer fighting in other ways, you can still absolutely have like sneaky Imperial Fists. You've got Imperial Fist Scouts, stuff like that. You can absolutely have a bunch of Ultramarines running around with melter guns like salamanders, right? Like they'll all fight in their own. They're flexible enough. They'll all fight however they need to fight. That's what's so good about Space Marines. And likewise with Guard, you're not going to have like all Mordians fight in an infantry way and all Armageddon Steel Legion fight in a mechanized way, because that's not true. You have Mordian infantry regiments, and the way they fight is going to be very much in an infantry way. And you're going to have Mordian tank detachments. You're going to have like Armageddon Steel Legion infantry regiments and all that kind of stuff. So what they'll do is they'll make the detachments based on fighting style, like they have done with everybody else in 10th edition, and not have the detachments based on specific regiments, although there will be nods and winks. So for example, if there's an artillery detachment, there'll be a nod and a wink to the Valhallans and to the Kriegers. If there's an infantry detachment, there'll probably be like a nod and a wink to like Valhallans and Mordians, for example. You know, and if there's a wink or a reference, I should say, to the Armageddon Steel Legion, right? But you won't be constrained, all right? That's one thing that, as chat said, GW has been very, very clear. They don't want paint and models to be linked to rules anymore, like in terms of your army, all right? They don't want your paint to be linked to rules. Models, yes, because they want Kriegers to have a Krieg datasheet, but they don't want paint schemes to be linked to rules, all right? So, also with that fact, you know, with the way they've got it now, because things aren't generic anymore, you don't have an infantry squad that catches everything. your Kriegers will be fighting alongside Katachans inside an infantry detachment or inside a mechanized detachment. Okay, and that's kind of the hole that GW's dug for themselves with these specific data sheets for specific regiments and stuff like that. So, with that in mind, and knowing that we already had the combined arms detachment, and knowing that it's probably not, and predicting that it's probably not going to change all that much, let us go to our first prediction, which is, I think we are going to have an infantry focused detachment. If GW goes for a I think GW could go for a somewhat fluffy name, and if they do, I think it will be the Emperor's Shield. So back in the day, you had the Emperor's Shield Infantry Platoon and the Emperor's Shield Infantry Company, but they basically combined into one detachment. And this detachment focused on infantry and sentinels. And what this detachment basically did is it was the first example ever that I could, well, at least in my memory, that we had splashing orders. So in this attachment, you could basically choose one order, like first rank fire, second rank fire, and it could affect as many units as possible as you wanted in the detachment. And then you rolled a leadership test to see if it affected them all. And then there was like a re-roll on that leadership test and all this kind of stuff, right? So the point is that this was the first example of splashing orders. Now, I would not be surprised. Now, one of the things that GW has been very good with in 10th edition has been keeping in tune with the community. And this is something they've demonstrated by the fact that the nerfs and buffs that they have handed out over the course of 10th edition have actually been very well targeted. Yeah, there's always exceptions that prove the rule, and sometimes they've not gone far enough. But when there's been a problem, they've generally been aware of the problem. They've shown an awareness of their game. Now, one of the things that GW knows the Guard community would really, really like back, any single time I do a stream about wishlisting, any single time you see a forum post about what would you want for the Guard Codex, and then one of the first ones that will come back is splashing orders. So I don't know if we'll get order splashing back in its like original form. By the way, if those who don't know, order splashing is where you gave an order to one unit and it affected units around it, essentially making orders much, much more efficient rather than having one order for one unit. Okay. Now, I don't know if we'll get it back in that specific way, but I think that the infantry detachment will have. I think there will be an infantry detachment. By infantry, I think it will affect regiment keyword, and yes, I know that will affect things like field ordnance batteries, and yes, I know that will affect things like sentinels. But remember, this Emperor's Shield infantry company and platoon specifically involved sentinels. So the idea of sentinels and infantry working side by side, and there weren't fobs back when this was written, makes sense and absolutely has precedent. So that's my prediction for the first detachment. Backing that up, rather than just looking at one, what because there's loads of detachments in there that I'm not going to say are going to come back. Backing that up, we have the Vigilus detachment book, the Vigilus book that I showed earlier, and in that we had another infantry company. This time it was the Emperor's Conclave Infantry Company, and it was focused on basically like combat guard and basically religious, the priests whipping the infantry up into a frenzy and getting them to like charge into combat. It was kind of dog shit, but it was another infantry company. So I think that there's a couple of examples of whenever GW gives Guard specific detachments or formations, they always have an infantry focused one. So I think that's one with it's backed up. It's not coming from one source. I've got two sources for it. Okay. Now, then we get to the second attachment, which I think is going to be The Emperor's Blade Assault Company. Now, if you look, there's a Sentinel Company there. I don't think they're bringing the Sentinel Company back. See, I don't think, because that was a one-off that's never been seen again. I think we will absolutely get the Emperor's Blade Assault Company. Now, this back in the day was your mechanized detachment. All right. And what this did is it basically gave you super objective control. And what it also did is it gave you full rerolls to hit against enemy units that were on objective markers. Now, I can absolutely see that as being a thing. I absolutely can see the idea of GW because we've had data sheets and stuff which give you bonuses to shooting at things on objectives. Think Leman Russes, think Scions, and many, many other examples outside of the Guard. However, I also think, and this suggestion actually came from chat from Smith87, so I want to give a shout out to him. I think that there's another possibility with the Emperor's Blade Assault Company, and it sounds very, very spicy. Sounds very, very powerful, but I think it could happen. I think this will be the detachment that gives out the army-wide assault, and something good happens within 12 inches of the enemy. That is exactly the same. We've seen this kind of detachment rolled out for multiple armies. We've seen it with Chaos Space Marines. We've seen it with regular Space Marines. We've seen it with Tau. We've seen it with Sister Battle. Hell, we've seen it with goddamn AdMech. So if they're going to basically just have a copy paste attachment that is very common across multiple factions that isn't specific to the Guard, then that's I think it's going to be it. And so I think we've got the Emperor's Blade Assault Company in here. We've got it in here as well. Let me just find it for you guys. We've got it in Vigilus as well. And so that's why I think we're definitely going to have a mechanized one, because we've got it's a traditional one that GW has always recycled whenever detachments and things like that have come up. But I don't necessarily think it's going to be about sweep and clearing objectives. I think it'll be the classic everything gets assault and you get something good within 12 inches. Or we'll have it all. It's everything gets assault plus a twist. That's what I think it'll be. Now, then we get over to that's our third detachment, because we've got combined arms, infantry, mechanized. Then we have our fourth detachment, Emperor's Wrath Artillery Company. Again, that features in this book, and again, it features in this. It's not a one-off. It's not a fire and forget. This is a very common detachment that GW loves to recycle. Also, if we look at things like the Cadian expansion in 9th edition, where you had things like full payload, GW always loves to boost Guard artillery. Also, if you remember, in 9th edition, we had expert bombardiers as a regiment trait as well. So in my mind, there's like 4 precedents that have been set for there to be an artillery company, expert bombardiers being there, guys. And also the fact that we've got fucking Krieg coming out. Goddamn Krieg coming out, boys. If there's any detachment that's going to exist with a Krieg range refresh, it's going to be an artillery / siege based detachment. It might even be called, the Siege Company. It might be called Emperor's Wrath Artillery Company, but I think it'll be a siege based chapter, regiment, I should say. Now, the thing with the artillery company is its rules have always been a little bit varied, but one thing that has been a fairly consistent trend when it comes to Guard artillery is GW linking Voxcasters to the buffs of artillery. So there's always, so even as far back as like 7th edition, you had this whole thing where if you've got an enemy unit that you can see with a unit with a Voxcaster and you're within 18 inches of them, all your artillery basically gets rerolls to hit against that unit. So you've got that. That was back in 7th. We had that also present in 9th edition with the Expert Bombardiers regiment trait, and we had that with the stratagem we've got right now in 10th edition, and this also linked to, I think it was Sentinels as well. I think it was it Sentinels in? Oh no, that was Sentinels in the 9th edition one. So yeah, so basically, I think you're going to have an artillery-based attachment. And I think it's going to be linked to Voxcasters. This is a very common recycled mechanic that GW uses when featuring guard artillery as a detachment or as a formation. So then we get to the one that I think is going to give most people a very big chub on. It's going to get an old chubby in the trousers. Is going to give them an uncomfortable feeling, is, of course, the tank detachment. I mean, there has to be a tank detachment. Going as far back as fucking, I think, 3rd edition White Dwarf tank companies, 4th edition Forge World tank companies, 5th, I mean, with the Beast Hunter shells, which I think we were in like 5th edition. Guards, tank companies have, I think you can go back to about 2nd edition, there's something in there, that's what chat was saying. Point is, Guard always have some kind of tank thing, tank detachment, tank force that they can draw upon. So I think that if there's one certainty, there's going to be a tank one. Okay. Now, we've got that in here. We've got that in here. We had that with tank cases with the Cadian expansion. We had that with, or was it with Gatekeeper with the K expansion? Tank cases in Psychic Awakening. Tank cases in here. I mean, there's going to be a tank one. There's precedent for every single fucking edition, right? Every single fucking edition. Now, what do we think those tanks are going to do? Now, consistently looking at these various sources, looking specifically in front of me right now, Vigilus and Montcat and the 9th edition Codex. One trend that has always been a part of this is additional objective control. Additional ways of your vehicles being able to interact with objectives. Okay, so that was a big one. That was a big one in here. Another thing that's been really consistently big is being able to do damage in close combat with your tanks. So you had like Steel Phalanx in Montcat, you had Steel Phalanx in Vigilus, and I think there was like orders in here to like run people over. So I think we'll get you'll get extra objective control on your tanks, and I think you will get ways of having your tanks do something in combat. Although I don't think it'll ever be enough. I think it'll be like a cool concept. One thing that is interesting, which is in this book, okay, in this book, is there's something called Formation Leader. Now, it basically gives the equivalent of +1 ballistic skill. It's +1 ballistic skill to anyone within 12 inches of a tank commander. Now, that might sound absolutely bonkers, right? But when you think about it, that would hugely make up for the lack of tank orders in a tank-focused army, right? Because if it gives +1 ballistic skill, then you can't stack it with the take aim order, right? So it's basically like you hand out +1 ballistic skill to everyone within to all. I think they'll do squadron. I think it'll be all squadron units within 12 inches of a tank commander get +1 ballistic skill. And then you can't stack it with take aim. So you don't have Lehman Russ tanks hitting on 2s. And it gets around the fact that tank commanders don't do many orders. That's, I think, that I'm not saying that would happen. I'm not even saying that's a prediction. I'm saying that would be actually quite a clever solution to to the order drought that tank formations currently suffer from. All right. Then, last but not least, now in here we've got things like auxiliary detachments and psycho detachments. I think we even have some stuff like that in here, maybe. Is there an Ogrin one? There's a load of like Ogrin and Psyker and like central detachments or formations they were called back then in here, but none of them get recreated anywhere else. They're one-offs, okay? And in no other book that I can see is there any time that these have been redone. So maybe they're due for a refresh, but I think where we're going to see the 6th detachment. I think we'll have 6 detachments in total. I think you're going to have Scions. So you've got, this was the Emperor's Spear Aerial Company. And in here, it was called the Tempest's Drop Force. And then in Psychic Awakening, we got Scion stuff. And then in here, oh my god, we got full Scion. Warlord traits, relics, everything in here. And whilst the Scions didn't have their own regimental doctrines that you could pick from, they basically had them inbuilt on their datasheet where they got exploding 6s all of the time. So I think you'll definitely see a Scion detachment. I think that there's a good chance that what will happen is, my prediction is that they'll take the current Scion Stormtrooper rule and have that as a detachment rule instead. I think you'll also have Scions become battle line without needing to make a Tempesta your warlord. That will allow you to have Scions and the Lord Solar together, which makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. If anything, the Lord Solar should unlock battle line Scions when you think about it, because they're the best of the best, and he's the most important bloke, and he'd probably have the best soldiers looking after him, right? So it kind of doesn't make sense that he limits Scions. You'd think he would unlock more of them. So I think what they'll do is they'll just get away with. They'll just make it so Scions get the battle line keyword, specifically Tempesta Scions, not Tempesta Aquilans. And I think the detachment rule will be the Stormtrooper rule, and then Scions will get something. Will get something else. I think they'll get something else. So that is my predictions for where I think the detachments will be and what they will do based on historical precedent. However, there is one very, very, very important thing that we've not talked about, which we've not talked about today, but we talked about previously, that I think deserves a huge relook, a huge do-over. Let me check. About 6 months ago, there was a big guard leak. And at the time, everyone dismissed it because it sounded really, really, really far-fetched. But bear in mind, a lot has happened in 6 months of 40k. Loads more factions have come out, and we've had lots of other information that has been revealed. And so what I want to do is go back over these leaks, because as crazy as it sounds, I think that these leaks are sounding very, very plausible. 6 months ago, they sounded like they'd never happen. Now, if all of these leaks came true, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. Okay, so let's go through. Let's remind ourselves what they were. Okay. So, rumored. Let me just check something here. Okay. So, rumored new models were New Krieg. 6 months ago, when anyone said New Krieg, they were like, nah, never happened. So, rumored new models is there'd be a New Krieg Marshal. There would be New Krieg infantry, like engineers. And then there would be a New Krieg Siege Battery. Now, all of those things sound very, very likely now, considering that we know we are getting a Krieg box at launch with the Guard Codex. I predict that the Krieg box will contain one marshal or named character, whatever it might be, one, character model. It will contain 2 squads of infantry, maybe one of the old Krieg infantry, one of the new Krieg infantry, and it will contain one of these siege batteries. Okay? So that was what the leak said. 6 months ago, everyone was like, nope. Now, if I said that to you, you'd be like, yeah, that sounds reasonable. Also, these leaks said that we were going to get drop troops that could deep strike within 3 inches of each other, and they got a hot shot volley gun. We've just had Tempestus Aquilons revealed by GW, who can drop within 3 inches, that don't have a lot of special weapons, but they get the hotshot volley gun drone. So if you had said 6 months ago, would we have guardsmen that could drop within 3 inches? You would have said no. Now, you can't say no because they exist. These leaks said 6 months ago that new Rattling models would be coming in a kill team. You can't deny that. The Rattlings are here. The Rattlings are here. They've been revealed. Okay? And these leaks said that there would be a Scion Combat Patrol. Now, before we saw the Aquilons, I probably wouldn't have believed that. But now I think it is absolutely eminently possible that we get a Scion Combat Patrol that consists of a Torx Prime, a box of a Torx Prime, a couple of boxes of Scions, one as a command squad, one as a regular squad, and a box of Aquilons. That's eminently possible. That doesn't seem unfeasible anymore. There you go. Now, then we get... So a lot of those leaks are now confirmed. We know we're getting new Krieg. We know that we're getting guards that can deep strike within 3 inches. We know we are getting new Rattlings. Those are all confirmed now. And it's highly, highly plausible that we get a Scion Combat Patrol. Okay? So what did the leak say about the detachments? The leak said we would get a combined regiment, an infantry regiment, an armoured regiment, a siege regiment, a mechanised regiment, and a rapid response regiment. Very similar to what I've just predicted there. Very similar to what I just predicted there. All right. In those attachments, the armoured detachment would give you more objective control on your vehicles. It would give you Armour of Contempt as a stratagem. It would give you a stratagem that let you return fire to the enemy. And you would have an enhancement that gave you a 5+ feel no pain against mortal wounds. And that you would also have a tank commander, a Rogel Dawn that could be upgraded to a tank commander. And you would have an enhancement that gave you stealth, essentially, camo netting. That all sounds possible. If you look at this, there was a tank case that gave you 5 feel no pain against mortal wounds. There was a tank case that allowed you to upgrade a Rogel Dawn or a Baneblade to a tank commander. And there was a camo netting one as well. And you got more objective control in here as well. And if anything's going to get Armour of Contempt, it's going to be the armored detachment, right? The infantry detachment. Now, this is where things... this is where I wonder if we are seeing these leaks, if they're a little out of date. But the core rule for the infantry detachment wasn't going to be splashing orders. The core rule was going to be on a 4+, a chance to return a battle line unit to strategic reserve when destroyed. Essentially, like Gene Stealer Cult cult ambush. Okay, maybe. We've seen that with GSC, I suppose, but I would be surprised if that would be the way they still went with how much they don't like free units. But if this codex was written 6 months ago, or longer than 6 months ago, GW's been sitting on it when they had no problem with units coming back, maybe. They also had enhancements like Commissar can lead Ogrins and order Ogrins and stuff like that. So my predictions don't line up with this leak in any way, shape, or form. I think that's important to point out. So you guys can make your own minds up on what you think is more likely. The Siege Regiment, your artillery got a boost if they stayed static. There was a stratagem that linked to Voxcasters. If you die, you could shoot at the unit that just that killed the guy, the Voxcaster. You could shoot the enemy unit. We've actually seen that we've seen iterations of that a couple of times in previous guard like codexes and stuff. The mechanized. So then we have the mechanized. That's different to what I predicted, but fair enough. We then had the mechanized regiment, which had when you disembark, when units disembarked, you got rerolls to wound. That's very, very similar to this. Very, very similar to what we had in here. And then you have the and then you had the Scion. You had the rapid response / Scion detachment, which said Scion. The leak said Scions had battle line, and that you would. And the big thing was that the Scion mechanic was like the Necron Cryptek, the Necron Canoptic Court power matrix, where basically, and like the demon sort of shadow in the warp, as it were, where basically the more of the board you control, it sort of unlocks buffs if you're in that controlled zone. Maybe if Scions keep their own ability, where they get full rerolls to hit, then having the power matrix be related to dev wounds would make sense if they don't update the data sheets. And then the combined. Now here's the big thing, right? Here's the big thing. The combined arms regiment was changed so that lethal hits goes on everything. Now remember that 6 months ago, Born Soldiers only gave you lethal hits when you stayed still, and it's only since these leaks came out that we have seen Born Soldiers essentially affect everything like it does now. With you no longer have to stay still. So there's a lot of stuff in these leaks which has been proven true, and there's a lot of stuff in these leaks which sounds very, very plausible. Very plausible. So I think there's a real chance that as time goes on, maybe these leaks weren't as unfounded as we all thought. Now, I did do a video covering the leaks in excruciating detail when they first came out, and I will make sure there's a link to that video down in the description below, because there's a lot of stuff that I've just gone over quickly with here. So if you want to see that video, then please, make sure to check it out, look at it in detail, and see what you think based on what we know now. As to the Raptor Trenchcoats, just said in stream chat, those leaks sounded nuts at the time, but yeah, they seem pretty credible now. Baby. All right. But let me know what you guys think if you're in chat right now. Let me know what you think. And if you're watching this post live, let me know what you think down in that comment section. Do the leaks seem eminently plausible, or have I been huffing on my copium supply too much? Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bon Vert, Lord Pryor, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.